The Apostle Paul told the Corinthians, if any man builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, his work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each man's work. If what he has built survives, he will receive his reward. If it is burned up, he will suffer loss. He himself will be saved, but only as one escaping through the flames. This judgment is not about our salvation. It is about what we have done with our life, our resources, our opportunities, and our ministry. But Christ will not only review our deeds, he will also judge our motives. The Apostle Paul wrote, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men, since you know that you will receive an inheritance for the Lord as a reward. For it is the Lord Christ you're serving. Jesus wants us to do good things for the right reasons. What we do should be for the glory of God. When we come before the judgment seat of Christ, he will judge our faithfulness. Jesus taught his disciples the parable of the talents so they could learn about the King of Heaven. In this illustration, the faithful servant was praised by his master for his good stewardship. His master told him, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. It should be the goal of every believer to hear Jesus say these words to us. Well done, good and faithful servant, when we kneel before his judgment seat. We serve a great and holy and just God. So what we do in this life will matter for all eternity. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we will not give up. Never, never, never give up.
I can't believe what happened to Jack.
Well, after what he put Debbie through, I guess he brought it on himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to be tempted by other women.
At work?
Mm-hmm. When I'm on the road, it's amazing the women that come out of the woodwork.
I can imagine. Have you?
No. Oh, honey. I'd like to say it's just because of how much I love you and how important our family is to me, all of which is true. But even more than that, what keeps me from giving in? It's a healthy fear of God. I know he won't let me get away with it, and I don't want to disappoint him.
Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. America has been greatly blessed because our ancestors dedicated this nation to God. They acknowledged his supreme sovereignty and their complete dependence upon him. Christian values were cherished and laws were established which reflected biblical morality. But like the nation of ancient Israel, as we prospered, we began to feel self-sufficient. We began to see our greatness as the product of our own abilities rather than as the result of God's blessing. During the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln was concerned about the spiritual health of our country. The words he spoke in 1863 have an ominous application to our nation today.
We have been the recipients of the choicest bounties of heaven. We have been preserved these many years in peace and prosperity. We have grown in numbers, wealth, and power as no other nation has ever grown. But we have forgotten God. We have vainly imagined in the deceitfulness of our hearts that these blessings were produced by some superior wisdom and virtue of our own. Intoxicated with unbroken success, we have become too self-sufficient to feel the necessity of redeeming and preserving grace, too proud to pray to the God that made us.
God warned the prophet Jeremiah that any nation that refuses to obey me will be uprooted and destroyed. Tragically, during the past several decades, our nation has taken the drastic steps to divorce itself from God and His standards for righteousness. The 1962-63 U.S. Supreme Court rulings on prayer and Bible reading in the public schools, in effect, removed God as a visible presence and influence in the schools. The rulings amounted to a symbolic rejection of God by our country's highest tribunal. And what has been the result? SAT scores have dropped dramatically. Pregnancies, rape, aggravated assault, and murder have increased at an alarmingly epidemic rate among our teenagers. Suicide has become the second leading cause of death among adolescents, and gangs have turned many urban schools into war zones. But the problems are not limited to students. Consider what has happened to our society during the past 4 decades. America has become a totally different kind of world leader since the infamous Supreme Court decisions. We now lead the world in illegal drug use. We lead the world in exporting pornography. We lead the world in divorce. We lead the world in voluntary abortion. We lead the world in violent crime. How can any of us be surprised when God in His justice begins to judge and punish us for our unconfessed sins? Listen to the words of Thomas Jefferson, our third president, as he considered the foolishness of abandoning God.
God, who gave us life, gave us liberty. And can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have removed their only firm basis? A conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are the gift of God, that they are not to be violated, but with His wrath? Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that His justice cannot sleep forever.
Isaiah tells us, destruction is certain for those who say that evil is good and good is evil. One researcher compiled a list of 10 factors which always surround the collapse of every great civilization in history. He determined that whenever 3 or 4 of these factors arose in a society, that nation was in real trouble. According to this researcher, Modern-day America is the first case in the history of the world where all 10 of those factors are present at the same time. It is tempting to blame the various non-believing segments of society for the turmoil in modern America. But as Christians, we must seriously consider whether we ourselves are to blame for the condition of our country. The state of our society is a reflection of the spiritual health of the church within our nation. If our country is lost, it is only because we as Christians have not obeyed our Lord's command to be salt and light to the people around us. You may be asking, what can I do to help turn the tide of godlessness and immorality? God has given us the answer. In 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14, God promises, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, will forgive their sins, and heal their land. This is God's conditional promise. It must begin with our willingness to humbly come before Him, to admit our sin of disobedience and indifference. Then we should seek His forgiveness, and we are to seek His face. What does it mean to seek God's face? In a sense, the humbling of ourselves and turning from sin are the byproducts or the end results of coming to know God as He really is, by meditating upon His character and attributes. To seek God's face is to meditate upon His sovereignty, His holiness, His power, His wisdom, His love, getting to know Him intimately as He is. You can be assured that our God is just. He will always treat us fairly. However, God does not take sin lightly, and neither should we. We must agree with Jeremiah, who said, Lord, our wickedness has caught up with us. We have sinned against you. So please help us for the sake of your own reputation. Will you ask God to cleanse your heart from all wrongdoing? Pray that He will rekindle your first love for Him, and once again, send revival to your heart, your church, your community, to our nation and the world.